If you know you need to let your ex-wife go and move on, but you just can't, this video is for you. This is one of the most common problems men bring to me. They say, I know it here. I know I've got to let go. I know I've got to move on. I know it's over. Maybe I don't even want it back, right? Not the way it was, not after what she did, but something in here is still holding on. I can't let her go. Why? Why am I holding on so tightly? And how do I get past this? How do I start to move forward when a part of me is holding on so tightly? And they ask me this because I've been able to help the men I work with do exactly that. Understand and let go of this part that is holding on so tightly. And what's fascinating is that that can have a lot of outcomes, because I know when I say that, for some of you, that's going to be scary, because maybe you don't want to let go of the part that won't let go, right? Maybe giving up on that hope feels terrifying. I will tell you it's not common, but very occasionally, when you do let go, sometimes that is when reconciliation happens. More often, it's when you start to take back your life, take back control of who you are, of where you're going, and of what's possible for you. It's when you start to come back to life, because divorce, and especially the early days, but honestly, it can last for years for some people, it feels like a death of sorts, right? It's a death of your past life. It's a death of who you were. And that is a terrible and frightening thing. Letting go of the attachment to her, whether you get back together or not, right? Whether you actually do move on, move forward into new relationships with your life, letting go is a critical first step to coming back to life yourself. I'm Rachael Sloan. I'm a master NLP practitioner and a certified life coach, and I help men like you, men who don't know how to let go or aren't really sure why they're still holding on when it is so clearly over, but they are. And I help them find their way forward so that they can come back to life for themselves, for their kids, and for their future relationships. In this video, I'm going to help you understand why you're still holding on and how you can start letting go. Make sure that you stick around to the end of this video, because I am also going to give you a simple but effective tool to help calm your nervous system down in those moments where it just all feels a little bit too overwhelming. All right, so you're holding on when you shouldn't be. Maybe she has a new partner, maybe she's had an affair, maybe the divorce is finalized and she's moved out, but there's a little part of you that's still clinging, still holding on to her, that won't let you let her go. And maybe your brain is in major conflict with this part, right? It often is. The brain is like, come on, dude, right? Like, it is over. You don't even want to be back with her. But there's a part of you that's like, yeah, but I really, really do. Or maybe I really, really need to be. So what's going on? The most important thing to recognize is that it's not actually her that you are holding on to. This is so important. So often I hear men say, I can't let her go. This isn't about her. This isn't about the woman, your wife, your ex-wife. It's not her you're holding on to. It's one of two other things. And honestly, it's probably both of them. It's either your identity, who you were when you were with her, or what she represents to you. And what she represents is usually some combination of love and safety. Maybe for you, it's family, home, connection, security, certainty, future dreams, shared past. But it's not her. You're holding on to an identity of who you were or what she represented. And both of those things are ways of holding on to how you felt when you were with her. And often it's actually just holding on to how you think you felt or how you think you would get to feel if you were back with her again. This is a simple concept, but I can't overstate how powerful it is in setting you free and how critically important it is to separate her from how you felt with her, from who you were with her. Because this identity piece, I think this is where the really catastrophic pain comes in for a lot of men after divorce. It's not because she's gone that so many men tell me they consider suicide after divorce. And yes, they always preface it, oh, I would never do anything stupid, and I don't feel that way anymore. But in those moments where they're open and honest and vulnerable, they tell me, there were times where I thought about it. Right? Because it was too much. The pain was unbearable. I could not take it. That's not because she left. That pain is the pain of losing your identity, of losing who you are, right? I am a husband. I am a father. I am a partner. So often, especially if you've been married for a long time, right? Maybe it's been 10 years, 20, 30, maybe 40 even. Your sense of who you are, your identity is so deeply tied to that marriage and to that relationship. And they've become linked in your mind, that your identity or sense of self is linked to her. So when she leaves, she's taking that identity with her. And this can be especially damaging and difficult if she leaves in a nasty way. If she says things like, you're a narcissist, you're emotionally abusive, you're not emotionally intelligent, you failed in all of these ways, right? When she says that, my identity was I'm the husband, I'm her partner, I'm a father. And then she starts telling you all of the ways that you weren't good enough in all of those roles, that you didn't do it right. And then she leaves. It's like that whole identity just got stripped and taken away from you, right? That is where the pain, that unbearable, almost unlivable pain comes from. It honestly has nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with who you are, how you see yourself. So let's look at that, because this is where you're going to start to find a little breath of life coming back in. What is your identity? For most of us, our identity feels like the core of who we are. It's how we recognize ourselves. It's how we understand ourselves. But what is it really? Where does it come from? Is that true? Is your identity who you are? Let's look at it, because identity is really just a set of beliefs that you hold about yourself, right? I am a father. I am a husband. I am an engineer. I am a life coach. Right? Your identity is a belief that you hold about who you are. What is a belief? Well, a belief is just a thought, but it's a thought that you have thought so many times and that you believe on such a deep level that you don't have to think it anymore. Right? We don't actually think our beliefs to ourselves. We don't walk around saying, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm an engineer. You don't do that. Instead, those beliefs have become so deep that they're part of your default mode. They're part of the story that your brain runs and plays through when you're not thinking. Right? These are no longer conscious thoughts. They are subconscious beliefs, which is just a thought that you've practiced so much, that you've believed so hard that you don't have to think it anymore. It just is for you. But it originated as a thought. And those thoughts came from somewhere. Right? And our identity thoughts, our identity stories come from a lot of places. They come from our personal experiences. Something like having a baby can very quickly change your beliefs about who you are, right? You go from I'm a man or I'm a husband to I'm a father. And along with that change in identity, all kinds of priorities shift in your life, all kinds of behaviors. You have to gain new skills and new capabilities. Or there's so many things that come along with a new identity. And it can change very quickly with a circumstance that changes. Identity can also be formed by societal expectations. When you say, I am a husband, what does that mean? What is a husband? What image do you see in your mind? What qualities does a husband hold? Right? Often, for a lot of men, it's not for everyone, but often this idea of the man as a provider, a protector, strong, stoic, think of the white knight riding in and slaying the dragon and taking care of the princess, right? Those stories are old. They go back a long, long way. We've been telling those fairy tales for a long, long time. And that shapes part of the identity. If you see yourself, if you take on the identity of husband, it's probably going to have a lot of elements of those fairy stories in there about what a man is, what a husband is, how a man relates to a woman. Right? So some of it comes from our cultural and societal messaging and storytelling. Some of it comes from our personal experience. But I hope what you're starting to see is that this is all happening externally. These are all things that you're taking in, thinking, forming into beliefs, and that's becoming your identity. But where are you? Where are you in all of this? These things, these societal stories, these fairy tales are happening outside of you. These events, right? Like having a child, that's happening out there in the world. You're in here. So if this identity is being crafted from all of these external inputs, is that really defining who you are? Or is it more like a role that you're stepping into at certain times in your life? I love thinking about identity in this way because the reality is that you have a lot of different identities. Your identity as a father is separate from your identity as engineer or business owner or YouTube creator, right? My identity as a wife is separate from my identity as a daughter, is separate from my identity as a coach. And most of us walk through our day and we're constantly stepping out of one identity and into another. When you're with your 5-year-old son, you're in the identity of fatherhood, right? Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're still an engineer and you're not actually very useful as a father in that moment, right? That identity of engineer doesn't help you to interact and form connection and relationship with your child, right? The identity as husband is not particularly useful when you go to work. So we become very good at adopting different identities, at stepping into them, stepping into different roles throughout our day and throughout our life. Your identity is not who you are. Your identity is a tool. It is a role that is available to you that you can step in to have a more full, rich, complete human experience, right? If you were locked into one identity, if you had to be engineer all the time, you'd be a pretty crappy husband and father, right? You wouldn't be a great friend. You certainly wouldn't be a very good small business owner, right? Our identities are inherently flexible. They can change, they can adapt, we can put on new ones, we can choose new ones, right? We do this all of the time. And yet, we also fall into the trap of believing that those identities are who we are, that that's the core of us. But it's not. It's just all these roles that we've developed, that we've pulled from out here, from experience, from story, from what other people do, from what we've learned is possible. And we build these identities for ourselves, these layers, this toolkit that we can pull from and step into and use at different points and times in our life. But who's doing all of that? Right? Who is it that's actually stepping into the role? Who is it that's using the identity of engineer at work and the identity of father at home? Who is it who's thinking the thoughts that become beliefs that define the identity? Who is that? That's you. That is the core of who you are. Your identity is not who you are. You are much, much deeper than your identity, and who you are is much less fragile. Identity changes, often quickly, often dramatically, often without our choosing, right? Because it's so deeply influenced by the external. And especially if we're not aware of it, if we're just out there believing our own stories, believing we are our identity, then we don't have much control over it, right? It seems like it can just be taken away, right? Your ex-wife just took yours, said, guess what? You're no longer a husband, taking that identity from you. But when we start to see that our identities are tools, that they're things that we've actually compiled, right? When we start to take responsibility for those identities, remember the identity is a set of beliefs about yourself, and those beliefs come from thoughts, and you've pulled those thoughts from all these different places and different experiences, but you are the one who gets to choose what you think, and you can choose new and different thoughts. You do it all the time, right? When you got your first job, you had to choose new thoughts and learn new skills and build a new identity. When you start to see that you're actually responsible for your identities, that you've created them over all of this time, and that they're formed from your beliefs and your thoughts about yourself, and that they are tools that you have created to help you function in all these different aspects of your life. If you can take ownership of those identities, that is what is going to start to set you free and help you let go of your ex-wife, right? Because you're holding on to her so tightly because it feels like she's walking away with your identity. And there's nothing you can do to stop that. That's the helplessness. That's the despair. That's the I can't take this anymore and maybe I can't even be alive pain, right? But it's also all part of this illusion that your identity is who you are, and it's not. Your identity is something that you created, and you've actually created a lot of them, and you actually know how to do it pretty well. So you have the power to continue to create new identities, to continue to create these new tools that you can step into, these roles that can serve you in various ways throughout your life. And now, it's not always easy to let go of a past identity, right? And if you are going through a divorce after a long marriage, that identity was one you held on to for a long time, and you got really used to it, and it was comfortable, and it was familiar. And the human brain does not like the new. It doesn't like the strange. Even if new and strange is better, it still wants the familiar, right? It's like comforting to stay in that old place, and it's scary to reach for a new one. So this isn't easy. What I'm talking about doing, it's not easy, but you can do it because you've done it before. You've created identities over and over and over throughout your life. You can do it again. But this time you can do it on purpose. You can be cognizant and intentional about how you choose your next identities. But because it's hard, and because you're going to experience a lot of emotional and physiologic resistance to this, your nervous system is going to be like, nope, that is scary, that is new, I don't like it, I want to go back to the old one, but I can't. And you get caught in that loop of the new is scary, taking control, taking responsibility for this is scary. But then you fall back into helplessness, hopelessness, despair, and really deep pain, right? So I'm going to give you a simple tool to help calm the nervous system, because all of that fear and all of that despair is coming from an activated fight or flight response. And then when you can't fight and you can't flee, you end up in that despair of helplessness. So what the nervous system needs is to know that you're safe. And if you're watching this video, then that means that right now in this moment, you are physically safe. If you were being chased by a lion, you probably wouldn't be on YouTube in this moment. Okay, so we want to remind the body and the brain stem, the more primal parts of your nervous system, that you are safe. Because when we start to ask these questions around identity, when we start to take responsibility and control and question and explore, it's frightening because we're doing something new and the brain likes the familiar. And when something is frightening and threatening, it triggers that nervous system response. So let's get your nervous system feeling safe. There's a very simple but highly effective exercise, and it might be one you've actually heard of and used. I want you to start using it a lot more because it works. This exercise is to use your senses to prove to your brain that you are in this present moment and you're safe. Because what your thoughts do is they take you into the past, right, which is remembered, or they take you off into the imagined future. But those things aren't real right now. But your brain has a hard time telling the difference. It feels like it's already there. It feels like it's still back there. Your senses can bring you into the present moment and help your brain get really clear on, oh yes, that is the remembered past, and I'm safe in this moment. Yep, that's what I'm scared of in the future, and I'm safe right now. And the more you can feel I'm safe right now, the calmer your nervous system will be and the more mental bandwidth you'll have to explore these ideas and start creating your new identity. So this exercise is so simple. Just look around the room, pick several things you can see. The real exercise is like 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel. The numbers don't matter. What I want you to do is look. Really look. What am I looking at? This microphone. Notice the texture, the contours, the color. Focus on it. Be curious about it. Don't think too much. Just look and notice. Do the same thing with what you can hear. There's all kinds of things going on around you right now that you probably aren't hearing. There's the buzz of some piece of some appliance is buzzing or making electrical noise. You might be getting sounds from outside. But if you're caught up in the future or the past, you're not noticing those things. They're not present to you because you're not living in that present moment. So listen, really listen. What can I hear? What can I feel? If you've been sitting here listening to me talk, I bet you have not been at all aware of the chair under your seat, of your feet on the floor, of what's between your hands, what your tongue is doing in your mouth, the degree of tension or relaxation in your shoulders. Right? Because you're not in the present moment of your physical body. Are you seeing how senses can bring us into the present and out of that fear from the future and the fear from the past? Right? So simple, but focusing any one or better all of your senses into the present moment and just looking. What do I see? Stare at this microphone. What is there? That is a powerful way to tell your limbic system, to tell your brain stem and your nervous system, I'm safe. I'm right here. I'm right here. There's this microphone. I can hear those birds. There's no lion here. There's no car about to hit me. I'm safe physically in this moment. practice that tool, and if you can do it a lot, it honestly doesn't take very long. If you do it a lot for like the next 2 or 3 days, you're going to notice a big shift in how you feel as far as anxiety, fear, overwhelming emotion. As I mentioned, what you're going through is not easy, right? And doing these things that I'm describing can be challenging, especially when those strong emotional responses are coming up. If you would like my guidance, personalized support, and coaching to help you on this journey, because these things are not easy to face alone, and I know that. And having a clear step-by-step path with lots of support that is customized to your situation can make a huge difference in how quickly you're able to move through this. So if you would like my support and guidance, then Better Beyond Divorce, my coaching program, might be the perfect fit for you right now. This link will take you to more information. You can learn more about how to work with me. It's also in the video description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.